Uh, the fourth critical choice I made on my journey was to create community and belonging. And I actually might start changing that the way I think about it as a community of belonging. Because I think sometimes there's communities and there's still not a sense of belonging. So
Right.
communities of belonging. Uh, for me, I was 30 years old and I had created more professional success than I ever thought I could in my for my definition. But I looked around and I am friendly with everyone. I'm friends with no one. I wanted to belong. But what I learned is you have to actually create it. It actually does take action. Belonging is not an idea, it takes action. I want to get your perspective on, well, how about this? Let's just take belonging for a minute, because I do want to get your perspective on communities. But let me just ask you, how does it feel to not belong?
Yeah, you're so right to kind of hold those things in different spaces for a moment, like belonging and then
Hmm.
community, and kind of looking at them separately for a moment. And so I'll take the first piece. Let's just talk for a moment about like belonging. And
Yeah.
I think I learned when I was young that belonging is something that springs forth from within. And that came through like very clearly for me in just my understanding of the world around me. I'm a third culture kid. I was born and I was raised in American culture with like Hindu culture in my home. And so as a result, I represent this third culture, which is like my interpretation of these two experiences. And trying to find a place to fit culturally was like never a goal for me, like, or socially or intellectually, and so on and so forth, because like these were just races that I could not compete in. Like, I did not have the energy. I didn't have the interest. I just could not commit myself to trying to run some kind of race to feel like I fit. And so as a result, it has been like somewhat lonely from the beginning, but like that works for me. And I think we need to acknowledge that, when we do DE and I work within
Hmm.
our spaces, that like even within that uh, manifestation of change, there are still different experiences within that. And so, for me, like belonging does spring forth from within. And I kind of got this feeling that when you don't have a sense of belonging within yourself, that's really dark. That's really hard because you'll spend most of your life with yourself inside your own head. Um, but when you just like cultivate this sense of belonging within yourself, it's an expansive journey that really kind of builds confidence and bravery, fortitude, grit. And I really live for that high. And so I want to just kind of take this piece of belonging first.
Yeah.
Like I have to understand belonging within myself and like what it means for me before I can try to bridge it with something that is community and like what is going to be what I give back to others because I've been able to foster this belonging within myself. And so what I do uh, know is that people need to be able to foster a greater sense of belonging for themselves, right? Because I know that that's true for me. So, how do I do that for them? They need spaces, they need tools, they need environments where speaking up leads to like this greater understanding and the pursuit of consensus. I feel like what I want to be able to help solve for other people is like agency and advocacy, but
Mhm.
belonging within yourself brings forth this ability to say what it is that you need to be successful, to, have the confidence to work with your peers, to show them where you're not that great and like ask for help, and you feel like you belong more in whatever space you're in when you can speak up. When you're trying to foster belonging from within, you need to be able to do that, to advocate for yourself. And people who can't do this get frustrated. I
Mhm.
think first they get frustrated with the world around them, and then they start to get frustrated with themselves, or the other way around. And when I felt like I can't speak up in my community with my elders, in a different space with my colleagues, maybe in another space with like my clients, or even with my friends, in a way that is like respectful but direct, it just does not sit right with me. And I don't want you to get me wrong, like restraint
Mhm.
and tolerance are extremely important virtues, but like silencing is incredibly just like damaging. And when we like allow ourselves to be in a place or in an environment that just silences us, I just don't think it breeds anything good.
It hits me what you say. It does.
Oh,
It hits me with what you say because it's so powerful. And to find belonging within yourself can also sometimes just feel like, but how? And how can I do that? But people like you and those around you create the space and the opportunity for that. And I will just keep going with the theme of difficult conversations and creating consensus. And you can't change things without difficult conversations. Part of what you do, I think, is helping somebody like me. If I think about me early on in my life and career, had I been around more people like you, perhaps I would have found that belonging within myself earlier. So thank you for that.
thanks,
Let's go to
Trish.
communities. So you create, construct, and collaborate within communities all around you. Uh, I just want to riff just for a minute. What are some of the communities that you are a part of? And then I'll just keep going with that. But just what are some of the communities that you're a part of?
Yeah, I'm part of the communities that my clients are a part of because I think when we work with them, we're not just working with one individual, we're like working with the team. And so I find myself really lucky because at least in the workplace, I'm like tethered into all of these great nonprofit communities and we trust each
Mhm.
other, even though we're not going to be working with each other for a long time, we trust each other. And then of course there's like personal communities that you're a part of, like friends and family, and I'm part of the Caton Children's Museum community and on the board there. At the firm on the pro bono committee and have led a pro bono project with us. And so, I'm that word is also always changing for me. The
Hmm.
sort of definition of the word community and
Yeah, tell me more
Harvard
about
Divinity
that.
School
Mhm.
years ago. I want to say now it's been like 5 years or 7 years ago. Harvard Divinity School like released a study, a report of like the changing way that people are gathering. So it used to be the case that people gathered at like the YMCA and they gathered at their church. And
Yeah.
now people are gathering at like Soul Cycle and like Tony Robbins. And like they're just gathering, having these meaningful exchanges in community, but like in a different way. And that's constantly evolving and it evolves like throughout history. And we have to be flexible with how that word changes. And so I think COVID brought about like how are we active in online communities? How
Yeah.
are we part of even just communities that we pull together on our own, like 3 or 4 people that are thinking through a problem together? So that word just takes on a lot of definitions for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And when I think about, I keep going with that a little bit with now because I am officially going to change my words to communities of belonging versus community and belonging. So now this is official, communities of belonging. Uh, when I think about the communities that I'm a part of or that I help teams and organizations, create and evolve their communities of belonging, I
Sure.
don't think that there is nothing more important to us as human beings. This is my belief. There's nothing more important to us as human beings than the life experiences that make us who we are. And the more that I'm going to use your words, the space, the opportunity for different individuals to come together and begin to share some of those life experiences in a way that's safe, in the way that
Right.
there's, right, a hold accountability and sharing for reflection. And that's when communities begin to form versus maybe the natural communities. These are the people I go to church with, or these are my neighborhood friends, or these are my work friends. But the more I find opportunities to bring people together from these different or disparate communities and come together and start to share some of the life experiences that make us who we are, I begin to feel this sense of belonging amongst each other and a new community forms.
Yeah.
I'm not even
It's like a
asking you
group
a
of
question.
people.
Yes.
It's a group of people, I think, in a way that they either acknowledge consciously or not, are working towards consensus. It may not be consensus around the right thing because there are like bad
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Right.
but everyone is trying to work towards some kind of shared understanding. And then, as
Mm.
individuals, we're just looking for community. We're looking for place to get to consensus because I ultimately think that that's like where peace exists. Finding a way to meet in the middle, even though it's just like naturally not what we want all the time. You're pushing ourselves to really to hold that in high regard.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Choose and Become interview series. To check out more episodes, go to www.trishkendall.com/podcast, or go to any of your favorite podcast channels, including YouTube, under Trish Kendall Speaks, and you'll find this interview and more. Choose and become.